It's not something that you can plug into ChatGPT and say, quickly look for these different elements, because it's so nuanced, it's so specific, and each of these organizations has a different slant, a different approach, and we need bits and pieces for IPOS from all of these different institutions to ensure that we have ability to comply with our vision and our mandate. My name's Tanya Brodie Rudolph. I am an international ocean lawyer from South Africa in Cape Town. I am the co-lead of the Towards IPOS initiative. We used a framework that we'd already set up to do a previous analysis called the Seascape assessment, where we needed to develop the best practices framework in order to compare different assessments. But with this specific handbook of best practices, we had a different focus, which was to establish how these best practices are implemented and which are the best examples, because we need a composite perspective for IPOS, because we'll be doing various different services. So we needed to look at many different kinds of assessments. So we looked at global environmental assessments like the IPCC reports, the IPOS reports, and we also looked at different kinds of organizations that do more demand-driven requests, like ISIS, for example. The way that we did it, the criteria that we used were the backbone of best practices that we developed. We then assessed each of the whole report against a preset selection of criteria to see how the report complied with those best practices, and if any of those best practices would be really relevant for IPOS to use as a model. One of the challenges was the sheer volume of reading that was required. Months and months and months of reading, thousands and thousands of pages, because it's not something that you can plug into ChatGPT and say, quickly look for these different elements, because it's so nuanced, it's so specific, and each of these organizations has a different slant, a different approach, and we need bits and pieces for IPOS from all of these different institutions to ensure that we have ability to comply with our vision and our mandate. Integrating it and pulling it together in a cohesive and coherent way was also quite challenging, but I think we've gotten to where we need to be. Part of that process will be vetting our best practices that we've established with our knowledge committee, which is really representative of different stakeholders, different disciplines, different types of knowledge holders, and with our community of scientific institutions, which represent thousands of scientists, and with our broader knowledge network as well. So we will verify all of the best practices that we've collated and check that it resonates with our stakeholders and people that are following us, because IPOS intends to be relevant, adaptable, agile, inclusive, and contextually relevant, so that if things shift in the system, if things change, or if we realize that something is not working, we will be reflexive and respond and change. We have to be. We have over 100 key takeaways to inform the IPOS. That's a lot to integrate for a new organization. So what we will do next is go through a process of consolidation of those key takeaways, and then we'll pull together all of our best practices, examples and references from the reports that we have, and we'll collate those into a blueprint. And then we'll go through a process of review of that, and then ultimately these best practices will form the backbone of the blueprint of the IPOS architecture that will ensure that it can maintain and adhere to its vision and mission.